Hi, this is Lauren with this week's letter to Lauren. And this week's letter writer says, Dear Lauren, I'm a 41-year-old mother of two, and I've been married to my husband for 18 years. I was 38 years old when I met and shockingly fell in love with my husband's unmarried female coworker. Never in my life did I ever imagine I would be that person, but also never in my life did I imagine I was gay. Falling in love with her, I experienced a love I've never felt and only thought possible in movies. I finally understood why I had so many unsettling feelings during my marriage, even though my husband truly is the near perfect human and partner. He, of course, found out only about 3 months into our relationship and was broken over it. He has stayed by me, and his coworker is a part of our everyday lives. My feelings for her haven't changed, and neither has the extreme guilt I feel about those feelings. Discovering I'm gay so late in life and destroying the life we've built and my family to be truly happy in my own skin with the one life I have. We've been stuck in limbo for 3.5 years. Do you ever work with women in my situation? Sincerely, Mrs. W. Mrs. W, this is a situation that's not as uncommon as you think. And I do work with people who are in your situation all the time. Here's the thing that is hallmark to affairs. The experience oftentimes opens the door for you to know something about yourself, for you to know something inside of yourself. Once we know something, we can never unknow it. All we can do is bury it, suppress it, try to push it away, or try to live in what I refer to as middle knowledge, which is the knowledge where you're holding both things to be true subconsciously, the old construct and the new construct, but you're in this unresolved space. And it sounds to me like you've been living in middle knowledge for a really long time. You know that in order to live your most authentic version and your authentic life, because of what you now know, you would have to make a change. But holding on to your old life and your old constructs is still doing something for you. And my work for you would be to explore what it's doing for you to stay in limbo. Once we know something, we can and we will never unknow it. And so your life is going to be a trajectory in which you now know something that you can't unknow about yourself. That is an irrevocable truth. And anyone who has an affair ends up knowing something about themselves, about what they want, about how they feel, about their desires, their vision for the future, feelings even about where they've been thus far, what they've had thus far. It opens Pandora's box to knowing. Now, obviously, that knowing is limited because an affair is not a real world relationship. It can become one, and it sometimes does. But it's more in this case, and in many cases with affairs, about identifying what it is that you know now because of this that you will never unknow. In your case, you're understanding that your sexuality in your current and future knowing is a complete departure from the knowing about your sexuality that you had in your first phase of life. You say that you're learning that you're gay this late in life, and it does feel late because obviously you wish you had known this so much earlier. But you also have more of your adult life left to live than the adult life that you've already lived. How do you want to live that adult life? It's better that you find out at 38 that you're gay and begin to explore what it's going to require you to move into your more authentic version. Now, obviously, you've got a lot good with your husband, and there's, nothing wrong with figuring out how to preserve the best parts of that. And that's kind of your work that you're going to have to do together. But I will say that when it comes to your husband, as is true of any betrayed spouse, his best life is not with somebody who is living outside of their authenticity. His best partnership is not with somebody who is settling for being with him and is suppressing their knowing in order to persevere in a life with him. That's not authentic, honest alignment. And when one person in a relationship is out of alignment and out of their authenticity and trying to live in a space where they don't know something they already know, the entire partnership suffers. The entire partnership feels it. And so I would encourage you to look ahead and say, what's it going to require of me and what's it going to do to both of us to live in a space where I am suppressing my authentic version and my authentic knowing? That's not fair to either of you, because I can almost guarantee there's someone out there that's going to love your husband, who is obviously a beautiful, wonderful partner and human, and be with him intimately and relationally in a way that's in alignment for him as well, right? Because if he's with you and you're out of alignment, then he's living a life out of alignment because he's not with someone who authentically wants to be with him. Maybe he's with someone who wants all of the parts of the life that you built together. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all make choices for many different reasons, but that's something that you would both really need to talk about and choose into together. Like, if we keep going together, why? What are our values here? And what are we going to live without because of that? Right? If you're gay and you've realized that you want to be with a woman, and instead you're staying with your husband in order to preserve all those other parts, what are you going to live without because of that? And what is he going to live without because of that? And what's the toll that's taking on both of you? And is it just going to be the situation where 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you can't sustain it? One or both of you is unfulfilled or out of their honest alignment. And you end up having to move towards the thing that you now realize that you've just kicked down the road. So I think, if you have a family, if you have kids, it's the hardest thing in the world. But if you choose into yourself authentically, you're setting an example for them. And you're not setting an example of martyrdom where you're telling yourself a story that everything has to stay the same so you don't affect anybody else. You're going to be affecting everybody else no matter what, because you're trying so hard to live a life that doesn't fit you anymore authentically. And when we free ourselves, we free everyone around us. It's a beautiful Liz Gilbert quote that I love and I always come back to. When we free ourselves, we free everyone else in our life. And it doesn't mean that they aren't freed, kicking and screaming, resistant, angry, that they don't feel freed right away. They may absolutely feel victimized instead. But I guarantee you, if you make 1-degree choices towards freeing yourself, you are freeing everyone else you love and care about. Because if we are not free in our relationships, we are punishing, we are affecting, and we are also keeping everyone else who's in that relational construct from being free. I guarantee it. So 2 pieces of reading that I would have for you, and I recommend one of these books all of the time. The first one is The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. Go read it. And she talks about coming into herself as a gay woman who was married to a man and finding a life of authentic integrity. And the second book, if you haven't already read it, is Glennon Doyle's Untamed. And she talks about, there's this beautiful scene in it where she's braiding her daughter Tish's hair. And she says, if I wouldn't want this marriage, this life for my daughter, why am I choosing it for myself? And that line just flatlined me when I read that book. But hers is also a story of coming home and into yourself. It's a process. It's painful. It's an evolution. It doesn't come, with these golden sunshine beams as you leap through wildflowers. It comes painfully. But on the other side of that pain is the woman who wants to feel alive and whole in her own skin. So I hope this helps.